Hello, everybody. I'm Steve Lentini, and I am the founder of Lord and Lentini Training for Life and 24 hours, 24hourgoodnews.com, which is my new website and the title of my upcoming book, 24 Hour Good News. The infinite is always with us. It's never absent. So, our connection to the infinite, the presence of God now, of the infinite, the universe, the Brahma, the Buddha, the Abraham, the Christ, the Muhammad, the Krishna, whatever you call it, it's never absent from us. And it matters not what we call it. So, I'm introducing 24-hour good news and inviting people to share their experience of the divine as I share mine. What I learned in my near-death experience. On the other side I was, and I call it what's next. I don't call it death. It was 22 years ago, November 18th, 2002. 1 second in intensive care, and the next second, one with everything and nothing. The amazing love. The word love doesn't even do it justice. It was mind-blowing. And in our fast-paced lives, we often forget the most profound truth. We are never truly alone. I mean, we're living in a miracle. Here, let me show you here. This is a marble with the globe painted on it. And scientists have said that this marble is probably larger in size than what the earth represents in comparison to the totality of the universe, which is infinite, right? We call it the totality, we call it the universe to give it dimension. So our minds, what I call the acorn brain right here, it's right here, the acorn brain, our small little minds, our egoic little minds can wrap our heads around that idea. We need some dimension, right? We put it in the box. So in every moment, whether joyous or painful, quiet or chaotic, the infinite presence of the universe, God, or the now is always with us. At least in my experience, it was never absent. There was no past, no future, only the now. And I like to say on steroids. I mean, it was just the now. I couldn't connect the events together until I was back in intensive care, back in my body. But where I was with everything, one with everything and nothing, like a drop of water in the ocean. I was a drop in the infinite. And consciousness, I was surrounded by the most loving, graceful, forgiving presence of the infinite. And those words don't do it justice because you don't go anywhere. You don't go with this acorn brain. You don't go with that little voice that most of us have. At least I do. And I'm glad that when I speak, when I'm invited to speak about it, that by a show of hands, when I ask how many people have that insidious little voice talking to them, sometimes 24 hours a day, even preventing a restful sleep because it's going on, even while we're sleeping. This connection is not something we must earn. This search for God isn't necessary. We don't have to seek it or earn it, seek it outside ourselves. It's inherent, unbreakable, and ever present. And that's what I'll talk about in my upcoming book, and inviting people to share their own experiences of the miraculous in their lives. And it doesn't have to be a near-death experience, just moments where even in the physical body, in the physical realm, you experienced the hand of something invisible guiding you. You knew for sure it was guiding you. I felt this presence even as a 5-year-old. All of a sudden, the fabric of life seemed to have a texture, like a 3D moment would come in my life. And I felt immense love, not like my mother's love, not like parental love or the loves of my siblings, or later on, any comparison to romantic love doesn't do it justice. But starting at a very young age, I felt these moments all of a sudden where it seemed like time had stopped or slowed. And I felt this immense love for the moment, for the now, and everything in it, and everyone. It was very hard to describe. I never spoke about it. In fact, I talk about it in my book, my upcoming book, 24-Hour Good News, and on my website, 24hourgoodnews.com. So I invite you to share your experiences. And if you've never had any of these experiences or you're searching for God or something outside of the miraculous, the divine, the Brahma, the Buddha, the Abraham, the Christ, the Mohammed, the Krishna, whatever you call it, you don't have to search. I mean, that's the good news. It's with us 24 hours a day. We separate ourselves from it. At least I do. I'm not trying to convince you of anything. In fact, I tell my clients, if I tell you I ever found the way, run away. This is it's our individual science experiment or life experiment, that as we change ourselves and as we change what energy we put into the world, things change. And when we're open to the moment by surrendering to what is, not fighting it. And believe me, I spent 50 years fighting my life until this occurred. This event on November 18th, 2002. I spent most of my life wanting something different than what showed up, right? How crazy is that? And when I surrendered, on November 13th, I was conducting a seminar with my training class at that time in Waltham, Massachusetts. One second I was fine, and the next second I needed an ambulance. And immediately I was grateful. People were asking me, Steve, how you doing? While we were waiting for the ambulance to come. I said, I don't know how my body's doing, and I'm grateful. I had fully surrendered to what was showing up. I didn't know what it was or what to call it. Although I had been studying the power of gratitude, I had never really fully experienced it in my acorn brain. My acorn brain was saying, come on, you're not grateful. Even though I was writing gratitudes, I often wrote 1,000 gratitudes. I would speak gratitudes. It did penetrate this acorn brain, because the minute I knew I needed an ambulance, I was grateful. In fact, when the EMTs arrived, they asked me that same question. How are you doing? I said the same answer. I don't know how my body is doing, and I am grateful. And gratitude wasn't spoken about so much 22 years ago. And you could see by the looks on the EMTs' faces, like, oh, this guy not only needs an ER doctor, he needs a shrink. Michael Singer talks about surrender in his book, The Surrender Experiment. Then he does a follow-up, Living the Surrender Way. Living in Surrender, Michael Singer. Look him up. And you can join us on the 24-Hour Good News movement. We'll be doing Zoom classes and Zoom discussions, and we'll be doing the book and sharing in the blog, the video blog. I'm glad to have guests. And on my podcast, Different Thinking for Different Times, how people have experienced that surrender and gratitude and how it's changed their lives, whether they had a near-death experience or not. It's not required. You could have been driving down the road and just saw things differently, like time slowed and felt immense love like I did as a child, all throughout my childhood. And it slowed a little bit in my adulthood because I was fighting life and I was going to win. I wanted things my way. Think about how that sounds, my way. Very small. As Ben Franklin said, when you're all wrapped up in yourself, you make a very small bundle. And we'll be talking about how to enlarge small minded thinking into limitless thinking. And we'll be sharing stories from people who have experienced the infinite, God, the divine, the goddess, whatever they call it. Do you think for a moment that the creator or the creative force that created an infinite universe, a limitless universe that we still yet do not understand